And I give the word to Rosa, who is the chair of this first session, a very important session for us because it's the director of the new office in the union. So thank you, Rosa, and thank you very much. Thank you very much, Markus. I think Markus Pössel is here, and well, the stage is yours.
Well, hello, welcome to everybody to the second day of the 367 IAU Symposium. I hope that you enjoy this meeting and get new ideas and new context, of course. Today we have an invited talk by Markus Pössel, and I would like to introduce a little bit him in this session. Markus Pössel studied physics in the University of Hamburg, and he finished the doctorate thesis in Potsdam in 2003. Since the beginning of 2009, is the head of the Haus of the Astronomy in Heidelberg, and since 2010 is head of public relations of the Max Planck Institute for Astronomy. From 2013-2020 was the National Outreach Coordinator for Germany of the International Astronomical Union, and currently since the early of this year is the director of the IAU Office of Astronomy for Education. Today you know that he is the invited talk of this symposium, and the speech is about, of course, the IAU Office of Astronomy for Education. Thank you, Markus, and of course you have 20 minutes.
Okay, so I hope this time I'm not sharing my Twitter messages, but my slides.
Yes, it's perfect, Markus.
Very good.
We see very well, no problem. Thank you very much.
So thank you for the kind introduction, Rosa. Thank you for the organizers and Beatrice in particular for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here at this symposium. As you know, we are the new kids on the block, so to speak, the newest office. And of course, we are happy and excited to tell you how we've started things off. So this is going to be a repetition for most of you, but I just included for completeness. So what was most important for me when in the discussions where we came to terms with what the role of the new Office of Astronomy for Education within the IAU should properly be was this kind of structure. So first of all, it is clear that the IAU is a self-organization of professional astronomers, and that is what is reflected in the divisions, in the commissions, and whenever there needs to be something done, these divisions or commissions or even the executive council themselves set up a working group to do the work. So these working groups are by their nature temporary. There are very few exceptions, but mostly these are really set up for one particular task and then they're disbanded. Of course, what is of most interest here for this particular symposium is Division C, and Susanna Diostur, the current president, is going to tell you a little bit about the education strategy of the IAU later on today. And of course, in particular, we fall within the purview with what we do here at this symposium today of Commission C1, Astronomy, Education and Development. So Paolo Bretones is the current president. So this, if you will, is on the left-hand side, the scientific self-organization. And for a while now, the IAU has created structures that are different in nature, and those are the IAU offices. And you have heard or will hear about a number of them or even all of them during this symposium. So Office of Astronomy Outreach, Office of Astronomy for Development. I saw Carolina Oetmann's talk scheduled for later. Office for Young Astronomers with their splendid summer school. Those are the service organizations of the IAU. Those are created for those tasks where having volunteers work in divisions, commissions, working groups is not sufficient, where there needs to be something of a more permanent structure, sort of a long-term planning. And all of this, of course, is then within the strategic plans that the IAU gives itself. So as I said, we are the newest of the offices. Here is our logo on the right. We've only been there since the beginning of the year, and we are still very much in the process of finding our feet. And because this is what really governs what we do, I've put this up here. All of what we do is within the strategic plans of the IAU, and for us that means the strategic plan 2020 to 2030. You already heard something about this in depth yesterday at the first day of the symposium, and you know about the general IAU mission. What is important for us and what is really the foundation of the office is that in goal 5, the IAU stimulates the use of astronomy for teaching and education at school level. And that is actually an important distinction that is reflected in our name. We are not the Office for Astronomy Education, we are the Office of Astronomy for Education, and that name reflects what the IAU is trying to do here. It's not the rather narrow goal of fostering astronomy education. It is really seeing and then following through on what astronomy and the whole astronomy community. Hello?
Markus?
Yes? Yes?
Markus, your voice don't arrive correctly. We have problems to hear you.
Okay.
Well,
that is
for us,
unfortunate.
sorry to interrupt, but for us it's working well. Are you sure are not your connection, Rosa? Well, please, Markus, continue.
Yeah, it's fine with me too.
All right, new voice continues. All right, so I'm just assuming that everybody got everything, and hopefully those who have temporary problems can watch it later on when the recording is up. So I think I was just at this key point that it's astronomy for education. So it's really what can astronomy do for education in general, of course, in particular for STEM education, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Some make the good point that it should really be STEAM education with the A for the arts in there. And so the fundamental question that we in founding the office had to ask ourselves is which actions furthering goal 5 are appropriate for an IAU office to tackle on an international level. And that's an important distinction because, of course, most of what happens in education happens at a local or at most regional level. That is where the teachers are, that is where the learners are, so that is where it should really all be focused. And the question is, what can we do within an organization like the IAU? So here are some of our conclusions from that particular role. First of all, our goal is to foster professionalization. And for teachers, that means something different than for astronomers who are active in astronomy education. For teachers, it's about access to high quality resources. It's about regional international schools for astronomy education. And importantly, it's also about defining standards for resources and training events. That's something that's the IAU has made very clear that is very important to them. So for astronomers, it's about support for gaining professional knowledge and education. Astronomers who are active in education usually do not have a formal training in that area. They come from astronomy. So it's about getting information about modern teaching methods out there, about evaluation techniques, and in general about the educational aspects of various topics in astronomy and astrophysics. So that is sort of the first part of goals: establish standards as a consensus within the community, disseminate best practice examples, since there are so many good things already out there, but it's a question whether everybody who should know about a certain resource, about a certain event, about a certain teacher training program already knows. So this is not so much about reinventing wheels, which is something we try to avoid, but about leveraging existing resources and existing training programs. And it's also about connections between the different communities, and the astronomy research community, the astronomy education research community, and the teaching communities, they speak a little bit different languages. And we've seen this in our work so far. It's really something where one needs to put in work from all sides to really forge a connection between those communities and not just sort of run side by side in parallel. The second brace of goals, if you will, is about infrastructure. So creating and supporting infrastructure, educational material database. Astro-EDU is something that we've now been supporting since the beginning of the year on an organizational point. And it's actually a very good example of what we want the office to do. So Michael Fitzgerald, of course, continues to be the editor of Astro-EDU. It is and remains an initiative that comes from the community itself. And what the OAE does is we support the infrastructure. We have an assistant editor helping with the organizational matters of getting all these activities pre-reviewed. So that's the kind of division of labor that we envision for our role in the community. Then there's the big area of creating, but also curating and disseminating resources. And there's one thing that we have found for ourselves in particular, that's the OAE reviews. Those are supposed to be quick and compact resources on what astronomy education practitioners need to know. So they are meant to help the practitioners get up to speed quickly in areas that are important for astronomy education, for the practice of astronomy education. So we are working on a big project right now with the diversity, equity, and inclusion review, which is of course a topic that pervades, or should at least pervade, all of what we do. But some of the reviews are going to be more focused on specific astronomy topics. So there's going to be a review on the use of remote telescopes, which is sort of a modular topic in itself, but also on something like daytime astronomy. And again, all of these reviews are meant to be compact ways of getting up to speed very, very quickly. Then there are astronomy resources, fundamental astronomy resources. So the most important thing that we found also in interaction with our National Astronomy Education community coordinators is that, of course, resources for teaching need to be in the local language. And that is really a barrier, because there are of course countries which have a very rich array of resources available. I don't think we need to worry about the US, for instance, or the UK when it comes to, do they have enough fundamental resources? But that is not true in all languages. So getting at least a basic equipment of astronomy resources into as many languages as possible is going to take a big part of the work that we foresee. We are starting, I'm going to go to the current projects in the next slide. We are starting with a multilingual glossary in collaboration with the OAO, and we're also starting with collecting basic images. And the idea is that at the end of this, in as many languages as possible, you should have the basic definitions, you should have the basic illustrations in your language. So you should have, as a teacher, all the material to really build your own lessons, build your own units of teaching in whatever your classroom is. And all of those resources should be free to use. So we're aiming for Creative Commons license for that. So supporting translation of resources, all of this in collaboration, again, with the Office of Astronomy of Astronomy Outreach, since they've organized this splendid astronomy translation network. That is going to be a big priority for us. Then, of course, as we move forward, is also about more generally promoting astronomy in national and regional curricula, finding both arguments and finding opportunities of why the role of astronomy in national curricula should be extended, and also then supporting the regional community to go to their decision makers in order to adapt curricula. So let me come to what is going on currently. During the first year, as you can imagine, we've invested a lot of energy in setting everything up. So our NAEC network, our network of National Astronomy Education coordinators or coordinator team in our in our language, in our parlance, is something that we've invested a lot of time in. And then we're also trying to get centers and nodes established. Those are extensions. Those will be part of the Office of Astronomy for Education in different countries. A number of you, I believe, were at the Shaw IAU workshop in October, which was for us mostly about forging connections within and within the NAEC network and from the NAEC network to the rest of the community. So we were very fortunate that we had 346 attendees from 82 countries really forging bonds there. There's an ongoing survey of astronomy education around the world, and that is maybe good to illustrate another point, namely the point that we try to be transparent in what we do. So you can find the contributions from the different countries currently on our website. There's 49 contributions already there. In the end, that is going to be a review. So it's going to be systematically connected, and there are going to be additional connecting and analyzing parts of it. But right now you can watch it grow, and that is what we plan to do for the future. So whenever we have an OAE review or similar, we want to make sure that the community can see how it grows. We are going to include lots of opportunities for feedback. I've already mentioned the multilingual glossary, for us mostly a groundwork for future translations, the Astro EDU infrastructure support, big ideas in astronomy, which many of you will know. We have made an MOU with them that is coming under the umbrella of the OAE. And there is also an educational astrophotography competition coming up in early 2021, where we hope to produce images that are then going to be available under Creative Commons licenses specifically for educational purposes. So we're looking for those motives that you will frequently need when teaching astronomy. So who is doing the work? That's of course a big question. So the Office of Astronomy for Education, there's a 4 missing there, is at the Haus der Astronomie at Heidelberg. There are hopefully going to be OAE centers and OAE nodes in 2021. We are at the negotiation stage there. Currently, there's a network of national astronomy education coordinators. And there, of course, for a lot of steps, there are collaborators from the scientific community. So we want to create our resources in collaboration with all of you. Here is briefly a row of faces. So my name is Markus Pössel. I'm the director of the OAE. Caroline Liefke, whose Twitter message you saw inadvertently at the start of the stream, is my deputy. We currently have 4 coordinators who help us with the work: Markus, Neil, Juan Carlos, and Said. We have Natalie Fischer as a consultant for elementary school purposes. We have Gwen Sanderson as our assistant. When we are not in the home office mode, which we are currently working from home, we are based at this lovely galaxy-shaped building that you see on the lower left. And all of this would not be possible without the support of foundations, the Klaus Tschira Foundation, the Carl Zeiss Foundation, and the Shaw Prize Foundation, with generous funding for the OAE. So this is where we are building our teams. We currently have 300 national astronomy education coordinators confirmed from 80 countries. This is our map. So I will add, as I always do, if you know anybody who is active in astronomy education in any of the countries that are currently gray, that means that we have not even got a nomination from there, please contact us urgently. We really want to build those worldwide ties. And you can see that the gray areas on the African continent currently are something of an embarrassment. This is really something where we need to do more. So, but overall, this is coming along nicely. So I think the upshot of this is a new structure. We have a specific task. We have a specific part of the IAU mission. It's about creating infrastructure. It's about giving support to those of you, whether they are teachers or astronomy educators or astronomy education researchers or astronomy education researchers out there. We are here to support you in very specific ways regarding infrastructure, regarding resources, regarding translations, regarding the curation. We are all of this in this together. So this is sort of a snapshot of a number of our National Astronomy Education coordinators that you can see there. And if your country has such coordinators and you're interested in astronomy education, then please contact them. They are meant to organize the communities or help organize the communities or support the organization of communities within their countries. Here on the bottom, I've listed the ways that you can get in contact with us. We are on Twitter as Astro4Edu. There's our webpage where you will find all of the materials that we currently have. We're also on Facebook as Astro4Edu. So for us, and hopefully in collaboration with all of you, this is only just beginning, and we're very happy to be here. Very happy also to be at this symposium, which has such a nice cross-section of what is going on in astronomy education around the world. So that is my message. We're all in this together, and we are happy to collaborate with you on those areas where we support astronomy education. I believe Rosa is still muted while saying something.
Well, thank you. I said that thank you very much for your excellent presentation. All the information that you give to us is very important for us. And I think there are a lot of people interested to contact with you. In concrete, we have in the question and answer area, one question from Ryan Khan, probably I pronounced badly the name. And he say, how to contact? I am from Pakistan. He's interested to contact with the office.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think the first step would be go to our webpage. We have contact information there. I'm trying to find out very quickly how the situation in Pakistan is. I'm going to write that down in my written reply, whether how we are in terms of National Astronomy Education coordinators from Pakistan. So yes, by all means, please contact us, and I will give you the specific information as a reply in the Q&A section in writing.
Yes, please. It is important that all the people interested ask the questions in this area, and also the speaker, it's important that answer in this area also, okay? It will be all the information in the proceedings also for all of you. There is, yes, there is a question from Jibaiji from Tanzania. He asked, in the world map, can you explain what the yellow means, the yellow countries that you have in the map?
Yes, so I have called up the world map again. So the yellow areas, both the pale yellow and the saturated yellow, those are the countries where we have nominations, but where we have not made the appointments yet. So I didn't go into details there. So it's important for us that the National Astronomy Education coordinators are anchored in their communities. And that means for those countries who are represented at the IAU level with a National Committee for Astronomy, an NCA, that's the professional national organization representing that country's professional astronomers. Where such an NCA exists, they need to confirm the NAECs just to make sure that they are really anchored in their communities. So those are the saturated yellow countries where we have, the pale yellow countries where we have nominations, but the National Committee for Astronomy has not yet confirmed them. For the saturated yellow ones, we have nominations, but we have not, as the OAE, confirmed them. That is a standard process involving some recommendation letters. We want to know a little bit more about you, about your role in the community, about your activities. So yellow is work in progress.
We have another question. This is from Anaeli Pacheco Blanco. The resources are designed to be accessible for people with disabilities?
a number of these resources will be, and of course the question of how to best reach people with different kinds of disabilities when it comes to sight or hearing, that's a point that we are going to address also separately with an OAE review. So fostering those resources that are designed for accessibility is one of our goals. Of course, it is also clear that not all resources are going to be accessible in equal measure. So, for instance, the astrophotography entries that we are curating, or that will be part of our competition, that is going to be less use for those who are sight impaired. But the issue of accessibility is one that is, of course, very important in astronomy education in general, and one that we will also address.
Markus, we have another question also for you. John Briggs, related to resources for education, do mechanisms exist for redistribution of surplus astronomy journals to places and organizations that need them? I know many journals are online now, but physically copies can still be very desirable.
That is an issue that we are not addressing at this present time. There is a general issue that is related, and that is the question: how do you create resources for those countries where the internet is not readily accessible, where online access does not really help those who are in the country in specific areas? So that question is one that we are definitely very aware of. And yes, once we have resources like the glossary or also like specific materials, trying to think about ways of reaching those who do not have ready online access is one of the issues that we will address. It's not something where we have a really good solution right now. It is something where we are still in discussion with the various communities. It was a topic at the Shaw IAU workshop, having resources that work in a non-online environment. So that is something that we are going to address, definitely.
We have 3 questions more and 1 minute, but no more questions, please. Next question is from Margarita Metaxa from Greece. She said, congratulations. Are the resources, translated to the local languages? I am also interested in participating.
Yes, so as I said, the question of languages is one where we are allocating a lot of resources, because that is really key to reaching the various countries. Currently, that is still work in progress. If you are interested in helping with translations, there is the Astronomy Translation Networks, or translation network, that is administered by the Office for Astronomy Outreach. So if you look them up, if you contact them, and again, once the live session is over, I'm going to type answers to all the questions as requested. That would be a starting point where there's definitely worthwhile material already to be translated. And once we come to our translation efforts for education resources, those are also the people that we're going to collaborate with.
Another question that we have from Salma Silla from Senegal. In how many languages the resources are available?
Currently, since all of those are plans for the future, in none. The question of how many languages and which languages we include, that's of course a key question. We've done some preliminary analysis on how many languages are spoken by by how many people and by how many young people. So we have sort of a short list of 30 languages that we are going to start with, and then we'll just have to see how it develops. And there is one aspect that is very important. It's not just enough to have somebody who speaks the language, but we want to include in this translation process a quality assurance process, if you will. So ideally, there will always be at least 1 or 2 professional astronomers who are native speakers of a language who will look over the translation. So it's really the challenge is to really get resources translated faithfully both in the sense that they of course need to address the target audience, but also in the sense that they need to faithfully transport the astronomical concepts, and that is of course an added challenge.
Sorry, I thought that you were finished. Amelia Bayo. Hi, Marcos. Then for those of us who have accessible material to teach astronomy, can we just send them to your team?
Hi, Amelia. You can, but we are going to go about this also in a more systematic way. So if you are producing such materials, it would first of all be great if you would sign up to our old-fashioned, I know, mailing list. There will be a more systematic drive of trying to find who is producing such materials, of making a collection, of making a curation process. So by all means, send us an email on what you have. That means that we already have you on the radar. Well, we do have you on the radar because of the talk that we co-organized that you already gave on the very nice accessible resources that you produced. But in general, please get in touch with us. Please subscribe to one of our channels, either online or to the mailing list. And then when it comes to systematically collecting and curating resources, we'll be sure that you are included.
Well, I said that I will finish, but I have several questions in the chat that they cannot contact with the
sorry, Rosa, I think one question from a chat we can share with Markus.
I want to say now. Yes, I have some minutes.
No, Rosa, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, because I think it's interesting to ask Markus. Miriana is putting a question.
This was the question that I want to read.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, Mariana says, great talk, Markus, many thanks. I can see that many African countries still do not have established relation with your team. Can from African Astronomical Society we help you with that?
Yes, definitely. So currently, I mean, we are of course actively trying to seek candidates. So when it comes to Africa, Astronomers Without Borders have already been very helpful. We've also gone via the German Space Agency, who have some contacts. But yes, the fact that you're asking this question means that we dropped the ball on that. So we should have contacted you. Apologies for that. And yes, we would be definitely very, very happy if you could help us establishing more contacts there.
Another question of the chat also from Durruti from Mexico. Thanks for your talk. Could you tell us on collaboration with other groups like Heritage?
So I cannot tell you anything about that particular group, but I can tell you something about the collaborations in general. For us, the most important part of collaboration so far is, of course, within the IAU structures, since, for instance, the Office of Astronomy for Development has, as part of their development activities, been very active in education, and also because with the Office of Astronomy Outreach, there is a large overlap between what is outreach and what is education. So for all the other collaborations, it's really sort of a two-tier system, if you will. For anything national or regional, we need the national astronomy education coordinators to be the liaison to their communities, and that includes their local, regional, national organizations. So that is really part of the structure that we are building, that whatever issues there are within a particular country, for instance, will reach us via the NAECs, since they are the ones with the ear to the ground, so to speak. With additional organizations that share similar goals or where there is overlap, so there are going to be direct contacts, but we have not formalized them in a way. I mean, we do try to include those organizations in our events. So the Shaw IAU workshop that I had mentioned before, that was basically us trying to get the NAECs and the NAEC teams in contact with the more general stakeholders in the community. So we had representatives from quite a number of different organizations there and participating. So that is, I believe, also going to remain a more informal process where we try to find those areas of overlap and those areas of collaboration that are there.
Well, finally, this is not a question, it's only a comment from Pedro Russo. He said that IAU 100 has contact points for many of those countries, maybe worth checking with Lina and Jorge. Well, I think this is, we have
I can just very briefly
to the previous one. Sorry?
I can very briefly answer that. Of course, we did check in with Lina, since also the NAECs are modeled after the NOCs. So the NOCs in those countries have been very helpful. So I think we had full access to those informations that were available to the Office of Astronomy Outreach when it came to contacting those who might be interested in being National Astronomy Education Coordinators.
Well, we have a lot of comments, questions, but more or less similar to the previous ones. I think it was a wonderful windows to open in order to give information about the Astronomy Office of Education, and they can contact with you in different way. That because we are later, we finish a little bit 2 months later that the session. And thank you very much to all the participants. Thank you for your interest. Thank you to Markus for your speech that was very, very useful for us, very interesting. And of course, this is only the first step to begin to work all together with all the community of the participants, with IAU members, and also with the people that is interested in astronomy education, astronomy teaching. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you.